All right. So this is going to be the recording lesson for Macbeth, the first part of Act 2. And so we're going to go ahead and start. You're either watching this because you were absent on a day that we were scheduled to read this, or now this week we are actually starting to have you guys do the readings on your asynchronous days. This is either an assignment for your asynchronous day, or you're watching this because you're absent, right? So let's go ahead and let's begin. So we have, if you guys are watching this with the blue book, you guys are on page 47. If you guys are watching this with the yellow book, you guys are on page 62. Okay, blue 47, yellow 62. So as we begin Macbeth, we know that Lady Macbeth and Macbeth have been have agreed to continue on with this killing of the king, right? This is the same night. As we're coming in, Banquo and his son are going to be up. It's very, very, very late in the night, and Banquo's having difficulty sleeping, and he's going to kind of explain to us why. We'll kind of notice that the the lack of sleep very much haunts a lot of people in this play, because of the same thing we talked about, right? This idea that when there's too much on the brain, we just can't seem to quiet our minds down enough to actually sleep. And Macbeth will talk about this later, the value of sleep and um, how much it's just impossible if we have too much on our plate or too much on our minds. So here we go. Let's go ahead and let's start reading Act 2. And so we'll open up with Banquo and his son very, very late in the evening, same evening where we left in Act 2 or Act 1. And Banquo is going to be kind of talking about why he cannot, he's going to reveal kind of why he cannot sleep here as we listen. Okay.
How goes the night, boy?
The moon is down. I have not heard the clock.
And she goes down at 12.
I take 'tis later, sir.
Hold, take my sword. There's husbandry in heaven. Their candles are all out. Take thee that, too. A heavy summons lies like lead upon me, and yet I would not sleep. Merciful powers, restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose. Give me my sword. Who's there?
A friend.
What, sir, not yet at rest? The king's abed. He hath been an unusual pleasure, and sent forth great largesse to your offices. This diamond he greets your wife withal, by the name of most kind hostess, and shut up in measureless content.
Being unprepared, our will became the servant to defect, which else should free have wrought.
All's well. I dreamt last night of the 3 weird sisters. To you they have showed some truth.
I think not of them. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business, if you would grant the time.
At your kind's leisure.
If you shall cleave to my consent when 'tis, it shall make honor for you.
So I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised and allegiance clear, I shall be cancelled.
Good repose the while.
Thanks, sir. The like to you.
Go bid thy mistress, when my drink is ready, she strike upon the bell. Get thee to bed.
Okay, so for a moment it's just Banquo and Fleance, his son, right, out in the night, and Banquo relaxes for a moment, looks up into the sky, and he has this line here when it's just Fleance and Banquo, and it's around line 5 for both books. Hold my sword, this husbandry in heaven, there's husbandry in heaven, I'm sorry. Their candles are all out. If we say that the candles are all out in the heavens, right? Remember, we're looking at the context, we're looking at these words and trying to kind of pick up what we can from what we do know. And to say the candles are out, we can almost imagine the lights are all out in heaven, right? We look up to the sky and the lights are all out. So what is this? The stars. The stars are not there. Do we remember what Lady Macbeth asked supernatural powers to do to this castle, right? To block out the view from heaven, right? To kind of cast this blanket over the castle so that nothing can be seen. In Act 1, she does this after she finds out Duncan is in the unsex me speech, right? She asks that the heavens don't look down upon what's about to happen here. And so we kind of see that this almost happens. He looks up and there's no stars in the sky, right? And so we can kind of see that what she has asked for is kind of almost come true. The heavens have been blacked out. No one's it can't look down on the castle. And so he kind of shares a little bit with his son, right? Merciful powers restrain me, and the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to repose. I cannot quiet my mind tonight, and I cannot sleep, which is why I'm up talking to you, son. I cannot, I cannot get myself to calm down enough to sleep. But he doesn't tell Fleance what's wrong. And so here comes Macbeth, and here comes his servant, and Banquo greets him. We have this little chit chat. You know, you've done so well. You've done. The king's very happy with what you are, with what you've done here, and the way that you've welcomed him. And he tells Macbeth why he's not sleeping. And you guys can all kind of see that clearly in the line, right? All's well. I dreamt last night of the three weird sisters. So his thoughts have actually been on the witches, right? What they've told both him and Banquo. And he kind of acknowledges here, to you, they have shown some truth. We already know that you have gotten Thane of Cawdor, and so I'm just a little concerned what that means for the rest of these predictions. Now, Macbeth plays it super, super cool here. Around line 26, 23 for the 26 for the blue book, 23 for the yellow book. I think not of them. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it on some words upon this business, if you would grant the time. I think it's funny that now is not the time, because, you know, Macbeth knows what he has to do. He is planning on killing the king. But Banquo here, he has Banquo for, you know, I don't think about it. Like, Macbeth totally lies. I haven't really thought about what they've said. I kind of just let it go. But when you have a moment, and when I have a moment, I think we should take some time and really talk about this. But Macbeth kind of does let a little bit of his cards show here, right? Because he goes further down. Banquo says, "Yeah, fine, kind at your kindest leisure." But Macbeth has this line where he kind of reveals his intent on um, 31 in the blue book and 25 in the yellow. "If you shall cleave to my consent, when 'tis it shall make honor for you." Basically, if you are loyal to me, if I am to become king, or whatever happens, right? But if by some off chance this prediction does become true, Banquo, my friend, you will be loyal to me, right? Like, if I was to become king, you would stand by my side. And Banquo has a very political answer. He says, "So I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised and allegiance clear. I shall be counseled." So Banquo's response is very crafty here. He says, "If you become king, um, I'm not gonna stop it. I'm not gonna rise up against you." Because remember, the prediction for Banquo is that his sons will be kings, right? So there's this slight fear that if Macbeth is to actually have the throne, Banquo might do something to kind of overthrow him. So Macbeth asks him for his loyalty here, and Banquo says, I would never do anything to stop you from gaining the crown in a just and rightful way. That's what Banquo means, right? So if you were to achieve the crown in a fair way, I would never stop that. But let's just keep this clear right now. For now, my bosom, my heart is franchised, and my allegiance is clear. I already have clear loyalty to King Duncan. That's not going anywhere. So for now, just know that my heart and everything lies within Duncan. And this is absolutely true to Banquo's word. He's not being crafty here in the sense that, this is fake. These are real words. These are how he honestly feels. So as long as everything's done legit, of course I would support you as King Macbeth. But for now, I have a king. My heart lies with him. Let's just leave it at that, right? All right. So Banquo finally goes to bed, and Macbeth sends his servant off. He asks the servant to let Lady Macbeth know to ring the bell if or when his drink is ready, and we're going to kind of see the bell is actually a signal for Macbeth to call him to Duncan's chamber, because remember, she's getting the two chamberlains, the two guards, drunk. And so she's going to ring that bell when they're ready, and he can go do what he has to do, right? Go kill Duncan, go stab him, and end his life, right? And so this is a big moment because we're moments away. We're moments away from Macbeth committing this treason that he was so hesitant to do, right? All right, so let's go ahead. He's going to have this long speech here because that's what Macbeth and Shakespearean characters do. Let's go ahead and let's continue. So you guys are on 40, the bottom of 49 in the blue book. You guys are at the bottom of 64 in the yellow book.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat of pressed brain? I see thee yet, in form as palpable as this which now I draw. Thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now o'er the one half-world, nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings, and withered murder alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf whose howls his watch. Thus, with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides towards his design, moves like a ghost. Thou sure and firm-set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time which now suits with it. Whiles I threat, he lives. Words to the heat of deeds too cold breath gives. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell.
Okay, so
we got to question whether or not Macbeth is okay at this point, right? The stress and the anxiety of what he's going to do has so far plagued him with anxiety. And anxiety is so far the only kind of anxiety and guilt is the only kind of consequences he's had of his dark thoughts, right? Of his evil intentions. But now we have an actual sign of possible instability, right? Is this a word for it? We have a hallucination here, right? As he's alone, he says, is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. So he sees this dagger floating out in front of him, and he beckons it to come, let me clutch thee, let me grab thee. I have not thee, and yet I see thee still. So that's how we know that this is a hallucination. And on stage, obviously, you wouldn't see anything. He would just be talking about something that wasn't there because he's hallucinating, right? And it's not something unworldly. It's in his mind. He says that I see it, but I cannot grab it. So we know it's a hallucination. Art thou not? Fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight. So I can see you, but I cannot touch you. It is the dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain. But we see that he kind of logically knows why this instrument is in front of him. He goes on, I see thee yet in form as palpable as this which now I draw. I see you as clearly as I can hold the one that I have, right? Because he does have a dagger with him. As this is which I now draw, thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. He knows why he's seeing this. Is almost an insane person. What's the old kind of Jack Sparrow line? I'm not going insane because I know. I can't remember how he does it, right? But I know that I'm not insane. An insane person wouldn't know that they're going insane. So I'm not insane if I know that I'm going insane. Macbeth knows that this hallucination is not real. He knows why he's seeing it, right? It's beckoning him towards Duncan, beckoning him towards the murder that he's about to commit. So he it's someone that knows they're hallucinating and yet are still hallucinating. They know they're going insane and yet they're still going insane, right? It's his guilt plaguing him. He goes on at the dagger switches forms. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dungeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. All of a sudden, this blood is dripping down from this dagger that he sees, right? And this is Duncan's blood. He says that it wasn't there before, and now it is there. There's no such thing. It's not there, but it is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. It's what I'm about to do that brings this bloody dagger hallucination to my sight, right? And then he describes the way that the night is. And this is interesting because Banquo noted that the stars are out tonight, right? And by out, I mean they're gone. They're covered, they're misted over. It seems that the natural world kind of reacts to the evilness that happens in this play. Like Shakespeare is telling us that to kill your king or to commit this ultimate treason, remember this is a play made for a monarch, right? To kill a king is so wrong that the natural world itself will react to it, right? Will suddenly become darker and an evil place if you do this. Remember, the king watching this play would have already had an assassination attempt against him. So this is very much kind of catering to this idea that, no one should try to kill a king. Because it's so dark that the natural world will actually let us know by reacting to it in negative ways. He describes this hour as The wicked dreams abuse the curtain of sleep. Now witchcraft celebrates pale hectate's offerings, and withered murder, alarmed by his sentinels. He goes on to just describe these supernatural kind of like evil has taken over the night, and it runs rampant, and it owns this night because of what he's about to do, right? And then the bell rings. Lady Macbeth lets him know with the bell that it's time. It's time for you to go do what we wanted you to do, right? It's time to kill Duncan. And he responds, I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell, right? It's already kind of a little bit of even sorrow for Duncan, and we'll see that kind of increase here in scene 2. Just don't sleep peacefully. I don't want you to have to see or wake to what I'm about to do. He asked this of Duncan, right? Don't wake up. Let's just do this, and it's not going to be peaceful, but make it as peaceful for Duncan as possible. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue to line 2, scene 2. Move my little slides here. I'll publish these slides eventually, but right now we just kind of use it so that you guys have a little mini version of the play. If you're looking at this, it's kind of nice in that sense. You guys have like a little mini version of the play on the slides, and then we go ahead and we continue reading. So in scene 2, we have Lady Macbeth. She's by herself. Again, moments later, there's not huge time lapses. This is Lady Macbeth by herself after she's rung the bell, after she's left Duncan's chamber and the 2 drunk guards, and Macbeth is supposed to be in that chamber doing what he has to do, kill Duncan, right? I apologize, by the way, if you guys are listening to this. This is Sunday morning, and the house is beginning to wake, so if you guys hear any kind of background noise of movement or coffee being made, that would be my husband and maybe baby crying because he might wake up soon too. So here we go. Let's go ahead and press forward so maybe we don't have to hear that.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace. It was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. I have drugged their possets, that death and nature do contend about them, whether they live or die.
Who's there? What ho?
Alack, I'm afraid they have awaked, and 'tis not done. The attempt and not the deed confounds us. Hark! I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss 'em. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done't. My husband?
I have done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
I.
Hark! Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain.
This is a sorry sight.
A foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
There's one did laugh in his sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, but they did say their prayers and address them again to sleep.
There are 2 lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hangman's hands, listening their fear. I could not say amen when they did say, God bless us.
Consider it not so deeply.
But wherefore could not I pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing, and amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad.
Methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care. The death of each day's life, sore labour's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still, it cried sleep no more. To all the house, Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Who was it that thus cried? Why, worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain-sickly of things. Go get some water and wash this filthy witness from your hand. Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go, carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on't again, I dare not.
Infirm of purpose! Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt.
Okay, so Lady Macbeth goes, and I'll talk about what we just kind of heard as she left. I love that this actress does this in a fearful way. Some actresses that I've heard, I've listened to different audiobooks, right? Some of them do this in a totally chastising tone, like aggressive. And I like that this actress shows us some fear, because I really do think that fear applies to Lady Macbeth here. But more of, I think, I don't know if it's it. I don't know. I'd have to analyze it further. Uh, but I feel like it's more fear of getting caught than fear of what they've done. But I don't know. We kind of see that she does have a human side here as we go forward in the play. So anyways, so Lady Macbeth is on her own in the beginning of this, and she's talking about what she's doing, or what she has done, right? She made them drunk, and she did exactly what she told Macbeth she would do. And I think it's interesting, it almost made her like excited at the beginning of this. She says, I have that which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. So doing this act, getting them drunk, getting them to pass out, and knowing that this is an aid to killing the king, almost kind of made her like super excited. Like this is like pumped her up, right? But we can tell that she's nervous, and that she's kind of got this idea of being caught on her mind, because she pauses at all the noises, right? Hark, peace. Oh, it was the owl that shrieked, right? So the noise goes off, and it's an owl. She's like, oh, okay, it's just an owl. But she freaks out for a moment, like, is that someone that I should worry about, right? And then after she hears the owl, owls tend to be a bad omen, right? To hear them shriek out in the night is not a good thing. I think that we would think it's pretty cool because we never see owls. I never see owls anyways. But for the superstitious, it could mean that death is upon them, right? Or that something bad is going to happen. So he is about it, Macbeth, right? Around line 5, a little bit past 5 in the blue book. He is about it. The doors are open. The grooms, I told you they were going to call them the grooms. That she means the guards do mock their charge with their snores. What does this mean? Mock their charge with their snores. Both grooms are passed out, and this is almost insulting to Duncan, right? They're supposed to be awake guarding their king, and here they are snoring as he is killed, right? So they're mocking him, they're dishonoring him. I've drugged their possets, that death and nature do contend them. So they're so out of it that they're barely alive, right? They're not able to kind of register what's going on around them. So really, really, really gone. And then Macbeth yells out, who's there? What ho? Right? Who's there? What's happening? Say something. Macbeth reacts to a sound. And now this would happen off stage. So when we would hear who's there from Macbeth, he would not be on stage yet. It would just be Lady Macbeth, and you'd hear this call out from him. So Lady Macbeth does not see him. She only hears his voice, but she does not recognize it. She says, alack, I am afraid that they have wakened, and 'tis not done. So she fears that this yell that she hears means that someone has woken up and someone has discovered what Macbeth is doing at this moment, and the plan is ruined, right? So she gets really nervous for a moment here. And then she kind she questions Macbeth's ability to do this. She says, "Hark, I laid their daggers ready. I took the daggers from the guards. I laid them ready for him. He could not miss them. Heck, it was so easy. Macbeth just had to walk in, grab the daggers that I laid out for him, stab Duncan, and then put the daggers on the grooms. That's all he had to do." And she says, um, that last line before Macbeth enters, if he had not resembled my father as he slept, I would have done it, right? I had done it. A little bit of humanity here from Lady Macbeth. She actually had the daggers in her hand. She's in that room. The guards are passed out. Duncan is passed out. She could have done it herself. Though I think it's important at this time, even if it is a crime, that the man who plans to take the crown kills the king, right? I think that's kind of also why they do it this way. Like, why didn't she just do it? I think that there's a reason for that, right? Because Macbeth plans to take the crown. But then also she says, he looked like my father. Duncan looked like her dad as he was sleeping there. She's this older man. It looked like her father reminded her of him, right? So she does have a little bit of guilt there, and she couldn't do it. So she backs out, leaves the room, leaves it for Macbeth. So a little bit of humanity there from her. And then Macbeth enters. My husband, and Macbeth says, "I have done the deed. I did it." Right? Duncan is dead. We know this as he comes on the stage. All of this fret and worry in the first act, and it's done. Right? We've killed Duncan. And they're both super sketchy. They're both super nervous. You would think that there would be some kind of relief, but there's just all kinds of the best word here is anxiety, right, of being caught. He asked her, "Dost thou hear a noise?" The Lady Macbeth, "I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry, so I heard natural noises. Did you not speak?" "When?" "Now, as I descended." "I." Right, so she's referring to the yell out, right? "Was that you?" And then Macbeth asks her, "Who lies in the second chamber?" And she replies, "Donalbain." So near Duncan's chamber, there's more chambers, there's more rooms. And he asks who lies in the room next to Duncan. And she says, "Donalbain." And it's hard for him to focus here. Like they're having a conversation, and Lady Macbeth is very logical with it, but you start to see Macbeth kind of lose his logic in the conversation. Around line 20 in the yellow book, 30 in the blue book. "This is a sorry sight. A foolish thought to say it's a sorry sight. Like, this is dreadful. You're being stupid," she replies. Like, just what's wrong? And Macbeth says, "There's one did laugh in his sleep, and one cried murder." So Macbeth is talking about voices that he heard, and we have to kind of question whether or not Macbeth is hearing things that he's saying he's heard. Remember, he was hallucinating just moments before the murder, right? So we have to question whether or not Macbeth is really hearing what he's saying he's hearing. And as he describes what he heard as he killed Duncan, or after he killed Duncan, we kind of see it gets less and less logical. So the first thing he says is he believes that he heard someone cry murder from the room alongside Duncan's, right? That they did wake each other. So this voice of murder woke someone else. "I stood and heard them, like I stopped and I listened to them, but they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep. But no one came in, no one interrupted me. They said their prayers, these two voices, and they went to sleep." And so he believes one of these voices is Donalbain. And Lady Macbeth says there are two lodged together. So there's another person in the room with Donalbain. We can assume if it's another male, it's most likely it's Malcolm, right? Because the two sons would be together by their father. And Macbeth goes on to describe them crying out. So he doesn't see them. He's describing himself over Duncan, right? Committing the murder, and assuming we hear the sons' voices in the other room crying these things out. He says one cried, "God bless us," and the other said, "Amen." Remember, they're saying their prayers to go back to sleep. And as they had seen me with the hangman's hands, listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say, God bless us. So at the end of their prayers, when they went to say amen, Macbeth, not sure why, decides that he wants to join in this prayer and he wants to say amen, right? That's a logical thing to want to do when you're in the middle of committing a murder, right? Speak out. But he cannot say amen. And so if you guys have ever kind of, watched the the supernatural shows, vampires, whatever, evil forces, usually there's this kind of assumption that something that is associated with evil or connected to evil or the devil cannot participate in religious acts, right? Because God prevents it from happening. And they have no right to take place in religious practices, right? And so Macbeth here is kind of already calling on this like supernatural inability to pray because he's killed his king. Lady Macbeth says, consider it not so deeply. Like, what? Will you relax? Like, what are you thinking about? And again, we're watching this, and as I'm describing this, we're seeing that he's making less and less sense, right? Wait, you couldn't physically say amen. What are you talking about? And then we're questioning, are these voices even real? Are they even there? Did Donald Bain and Malcolm really wake up, or is he hearing things? And Macbeth here, but wherefore could not I pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing, and amen stuck in my throat. More than any time in my life, I needed God, and here he would not come to me, right? I could not ask for his blessing. And Lady Macbeth is again chastising him, calling him mad. And then line 35, we have, I think it's around line 50 in the blue book, and 35 in the yellow book, right? This is the line I told you guys. He's going to refer back to this idea of sleep, and Banquo couldn't sleep because he had things on his mind. And so here is Macbeth. Methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Again, is this voice real? Is it not? Macbeth does murder sleep, the innocent sleep that knits up the reveled sleeve of care, the death of each day's life. So sleep, sore labor's bath. He's talking about what sleep is. Balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. He praises sleep here. He's calling it sore labor's bath, right? The balm of hurt minds. When we go to sleep, it's like this healing thing that happens for us, right? If we're overexhausted, if we're tired, if our body hurts from hard labor, if our minds are overworked, sleep helps us rejuvenate, right? Helps us get to the next day and be able to function. So we need sleep. Sleep is a critical part of our lives. And he says here that he heard a voice saying that Macbeth murdered sleep. He goes on to say, Glamis hath murdered sleep. This is the voice that he heard. And therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more. From all the guilt that Duncan's death has brought onto Macbeth, he knows now that he will never get a quiet mind. He will never have a peaceful moment again because of the treasonous act that he has done, right? There's so much regret there. He knows that he will never have a moment's peace. That's what he means when he says Macbeth hath murdered sleep. In murdering Duncan, I have murdered my chance of ever having a quiet mind ever again, right? So Macbeth shall sleep no more. There is no more sleep for Macbeth. There's no more quiet or peace of mind. Sorry, this is a lot because these are like very, very famous lines, and I want you guys to get it. They're beautiful. It's beautiful the way that they kind of are already infecting these people with guilt in their acts. And so Lady Macbeth is trying to calm him down, but she makes a big discovery here. She's telling him, you need to calm down, you need to go get some water, you need to wash your hands because you got blood all over you. And then she freaks, right? And I love the way that the actress does this. Why did you bring these daggers from this place? She finally looks down at her husband's hands when she tells him to go wash, and he's holding the two daggers. He's holding the murder weapons in his hand. And she's like, why do you have them? They must lie there. Go carry them and smear the sleeping grooms with blood. You were supposed to put the murder weapons on the guards so people thought that the guards killed him, right? Why do you have these with you? You're literally carrying your guilt around. If someone were to walk in, they would assume that we killed him, right? And Macbeth can't do it. He says, I'll go no more. I'm afraid to think of what I've done, let alone look upon it, right? I'm not entering that room again. I'm done. And so Lady Macbeth here has to kind of do this for him, infirm of purpose. Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures, right? She says there's nothing to fear in that room. Duncan is just a dead body. There's nothing fearful about that, right? There's nothing to be afraid of. What's he gonna do? Get up and kill you back? Like, he's dead, right? So she says that it is the eye of the child that fears the painted devil, right? You're acting like a little kid. Give me the daggers. I'm going to go ahead and put them where they should be. So Lady Macbeth has now grabbed these bloody daggers, assuming she now has blood on her hands. That's important to remember, right? So she's grabbed these bloody daggers. She has blood on her hands. Macbeth is covered in blood. And she's going to go put these on the grooms and then take blood from Duncan, like more, and smear as much as she can on the grooms, right? On the guards. So she's gonna go get her hands dirty. As she leaves, Macbeth is on his own, and we hear this knocking, right? And again, we have to question all the noises that he hears, and we'll see whether or not this knocking is real or whether or not it's false. So here we go. Let's go ahead and continue.
Whence is that knocking? How is't with me when every noise appalls me? What hands are here? Ah, they pluck out mine eyes. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No. This my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red.
My hands are of your color, but I shame to wear a heart so white. I hear a knocking at the south entry. Retire we to our chamber. A little water clears us of this deed. How easy is it then? Your constancy hath left you unattended. Hark! More knocking. Get on your nightgown, lest occasion call us and show us to be watchers. Be not lost so poorly in your thoughts.
To know my deed, 'twere best not know myself. Wake Duncan with thy knocking. I would thou couldst.
Okay. They didn't give the dark music, so I don't know. All right. So Lady Macbeth leaves, and we hear the knocking, right? And Macbeth responds to it, but we don't have anyone else to verify that it's real. Whence is that knocking? House with me, every noise appalls me. So he can already he's irritated, he's irritable, right? Because of everything that is on his mind, like everything else that kind of happens around him at this point. You know, I have something really heavy on your mind. I like this because there's so many human emotions that are they're extreme in this play, but I feel like it's so many human emotions or even kind of failures of what we have as humans that I think that people can just relate to. And you ever have something that's super heavy on your mind or super distracting, and everything else that happens around you is just irritating because you're trying to deal with all the thoughts that are in your head. Um, it's just overwhelming for him. So he's like, every sound, every kind of call to my attention is so frustrating because I'm trying to kind of deal with all the thoughts that are racing in my head, right? Um, and here we have more guilt. He asks, will Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hands? Because he has to go wipe all of his blood off of his body, right? Off his hands. And he makes the comment here that no, uh, the hand will rather, I could say this, the hand will rather the multitudinous seas incardinine, um, making the red one green. So there's so much blood on his hands that if he were to actually dip his hands into the ocean would turn red rather than his hands clean, right? We know that's not physically possible, right? If his hands are only so big. But it's this metaphor for his guilt, right? There's not enough ocean There's not enough water in the ocean to wash him clean of what he's done. He will forever be marked with this deed. So he can wash away all the evidence that he wants. The guilt is still there, and it's so overwhelming that he cannot wash it away, right? I've always liked that line, right? There's not enough blood in the, there's not enough blood, there's not enough water in the ocean to rid me of this blood on my hands. Lady Macbeth comes back, and we do get confirmation. Is the knocking real? Yeah, it's like the one sound he's heard today that's actually a real thing. My hands, and she comments, my hands are of your color. So now she has blood, like I told you, that's important to note. She has blood on her hands too. But I shame to wear a heart so white. Right? But I'd be ashamed to be as afraid of it as you, right? You're too weak, buddy. Come on, you gotta get things together. But again, I love this actress's choices because I feel like she says it in a way that shows she's saying one thing, but there's a lot of emotion in behind her voice. And so she hears the knocking too. She says it's at the south entry. So someone's knocking on the door. They want in. So at this point in the night, obviously like a lot's happened, right? At this point in the night, we're really close to the dawn. They've been up all night. Remember, no one sleeps in this play. They've been up all night taking care of this. And so now it's not unreasonable for someone to kind of be coming and arriving at the castle. It is almost dawn. So the night is almost over. She says, a little water clears us of this deed, right? How easy is it then? So again, she's all this talk, but I love the way the actress says this. I don't think she fully, the way the actress puts it, I don't think that Lady Macbeth really believes this, right? She's kind of just trying to keep that front up. Now that the deed is done, I think it's really, it's already starting to kind of hit Lady Macbeth what they've done. Your constancy hath left you unattended, right? You need to get your stuff together. You look a mess. You need to clean your hands. She's trying to get her husband to pull himself together. There's more knocking at the front door. And he's lost in thoughts. He needs to get his stuff together. So Macbeth closes the scene with, "I know my deed. To know my deed, 'twere best not know myself." He seems to be lost in thought because he can't face the reality of what he's done, right? He can't face, again, I told you guys, like all of these thoughts are running through his head and he can't seem to process them. He can't seem to get his mind around what he's just done. So we already have some major signs that Macbeth is not going to handle the aftermath of Duncan's death well. And he has to play a really good role here in a moment. He has to kind of convince everybody in the castle that he had nothing to do with this, because everyone's going to wake up the moment that Duncan is discovered, and it's not like Macbeth can hide anymore. He has to be out there. And then so that last call, I love that because it is a clear sign of his regret, right? Wake Duncan with thy knocking. I would thou couldst. Right? The knocking continues, and he says, in a sarcastic way, but he's like, God, I wish that knocking could wake up, you'd wake up the dead, and I wish you could, because I don't want to live with what I've just done, right? I don't want to have to live with the thought that I've just killed my own king. But he has, and so we have to deal with it. So in scene, we'll read scenes 3 and 4. If, again, you're watching this as your asynchronous work, we'll read scenes 3 and 4 and finish the worksheet on Thursday or Friday, whichever day I have you. And if you're absent, you will be watching the video for 3 and 4 during your asynchronous work Thursday or Friday. Okay. All right. Hopefully that was all clear. Hopefully this worked and all the sounds work. Usually I don't know until I'm done recording. And I will see you guys next class.